The smoke from my grill was just starting to curl into the afternoon air when I heard the screech of brakes followed by the unmistakable click-clack of heels on pavement. I didn't even need to look up to know who it was. Karen Pemberton, our HOA president, came storming into my backyard like a tornado in designer sunglasses, waving a piece of paper like it was a weapon. "Diego Ramirez," she shrieked in that tone that could shatter glass. "You cease and desist this illegal gathering immediately." I was about to respond when I noticed the black SUV pulling up to the curb. The tinted window rolled down, and there he was, Governor James Mitchell, holding a bottle of his famous hot sauce and wearing the biggest grin I'd seen in years. "Am I late for the party?" he called out, stepping onto my lawn just as Karen's face went from red to ghost white. Let me back up a few weeks to explain how we got here. My name is Diego Ramirez, and I've been a firefighter in Pine Valley for 15 years. Every spring, I organize a charity barbecue in my backyard to raise money for injured first responders. It's not just any barbecue. It's a full-scale event with live music, auction items, and enough smoked meat to feed half the neighborhood. This year was supposed to be special. We'd sent out flyers to the whole community, and the RSVPs were rolling in faster than ever. Then came the surprise of a lifetime, a confirmation from the governor's office. Turns out, Governor Mitchell wanted to attend personally. Not many people knew this, but 5 years ago, I'd pulled him from a burning car during the Riverside wildfire. He'd never forgotten. I was checking my email that morning when the first sign of trouble appeared. Karen Pemberton, president of the Pine Valley HOA for the past 3 years, had sent a mass email to all residents. The subject line read, "Urgent. New safety regulations effective immediately." The email banned all backyard barbecues, citing them as fire hazards. The timing wasn't a coincidence. Karen lived 3 houses down and had been complaining about my annual fundraisers since she moved in. Last year, she tried to shut us down for excessive noise, even though we wrapped up by 8 p.m. The year before that, it was unauthorized commercial activity. Each time, I'd followed every rule to the letter, and she'd had to back down. But this year, she'd gotten creative. By declaring all barbecues a fire hazard, she thought she'd found the perfect weapon. What she didn't know was that she'd just picked a fight with someone who knew fire safety regulations better than anyone in the state. I spent the next week making sure everything was bulletproof. Fire extinguishers? Check. Proper clearances from structures? Double check. Permits from the city? Triple check. I even had the fire marshal himself come out to inspect my setup. Tom Garrett had been a friend for years, and he laughed when he saw how overboard I'd gone. "Diego, your backyard is safer than most commercial kitchens," he said, signing off on the inspection form. "Whatever Karen's playing at, she's got nothing on you." But Karen wasn't done. She started a one-woman campaign to shut down the event. First, she filed a complaint with the fire department, the same department where I worked. My captain just shook his head and filed it in the trash. Then she threatened every neighbor who'd RSVP'd with fines for supporting illegal activities. Some of them got scared and canceled. Others just got angry. "She's lost her mind," my neighbor Janet told me over the fence. "I've lived here 20 years, and we've never had problems until she showed up." The situation escalated when Karen called an emergency HOA meeting. She stood at the podium in the community center, her voice dripping with false concern. "We must think of the children," she said dramatically. "These dangerous gatherings put our entire neighborhood at risk. As president, I'm issuing an immediate cease and desist order for the Ramirez property." That's when old Bill Harrison stood up. Bill had been on the HOA board for a decade, and he wasn't having any of it. "Karen, you can't just make up rules because you don't like someone," he said firmly. "Diego's followed every regulation. This is harassment, plain and simple." Her face turned that particular shade of red I'd come to recognize as DEFCON Karen. "I am the president, and I will protect this community whether you support me or not." She stormed out, but not before shooting me a look that could have melted steel. I knew this wasn't over. The morning of the fundraiser arrived with perfect weather. I was up at 5 a.m., getting the smokers ready. The brisket had been marinating for 2 days, the ribs were prepped, and volunteers were already arriving to help set up tables and decorations. Karen appeared at exactly 7 a.m., standing at the end of my driveway with her arms crossed like a sentry. She'd brought reinforcements, 2 other HOA board members who looked distinctly uncomfortable being there. "This event is cancelled," she announced loudly enough for the whole street to hear. "Anyone who participates will face immediate fines and possible legal action." I walked over calmly, wiping my hands on my apron. "Karen, I have all the permits right here. Would you like to see them?" She waved them away dismissively. "Your permits are irrelevant. The HOA has spoken." That's when we heard the sirens. Not emergency sirens, the kind that announce an official motorcade. 2 police motorcycles rounded the corner, followed by 3 black SUVs. The neighbors who'd been peeking through their curtains suddenly came outside. The lead SUV stopped right in front of my house. The door opened, and out stepped Governor James Mitchell, looking sharp in jeans and a polo shirt. Behind him came his security detail and several staff members carrying cameras. "Diego!" the governor called out warmly, walking right past a stunned Karen to shake my hand. "Sorry we're early. I wanted to help with the setup." I couldn't help but grin. "Governor Mitchell, welcome to Pine Valley. Let me introduce you to our HOA president, Karen Pemberton." She was just leaving. The governor turned to Karen with a politician's smile. "Ms. Pemberton, how wonderful to meet a dedicated community leader. I hope you'll be staying for the fundraiser. I'm particularly excited to try Diego's famous brisket. Did you know he once saved my life?" Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. One of the governor's staff members was already recording, and I could see the headline forming, "Governor attends local heroes charity event." But this is... Karen stammered. The fire marshal chose that moment to arrive. Tom walked over with a big smile. "Governor Mitchell, what an honor. I just wanted to personally confirm that Mr. Ramirez's setup exceeds all state safety requirements. In fact, I'm thinking of using it as a training example for our commercial inspection course." The HOA board members who'd come with Karen suddenly found urgent business elsewhere. Within minutes, she was standing alone while the governor helped me arrange tables, and neighbors streamed into the backyard with side dishes and desserts. The event was a massive success. The governor didn't just stay for a photo op. He spent 3 hours serving food, talking with guests, and sharing the story of how I'd pulled him from that burning car. When he gave his speech, there wasn't a dry eye in the yard. "Character isn't about titles or positions," he said, standing next to the smoking grills. "It's about service. Diego Ramirez represents the best of our state, someone who runs toward danger to help others and continues serving his community even when faced with petty obstacles." Everyone knew exactly what petty obstacles he meant. Karen had retreated to her house an hour earlier, her curtains drawn tight. The donations exceeded our goal by 300%. Local news crews captured the whole event, and by evening, the story had gone viral. Local hero firefighter hosts governor at charity BBQ despite HOA opposition. The next HOA meeting was standing room only. Bill Harrison had called for an emergency session to address recent leadership concerns. Karen sat at the president's podium, but for once, she wasn't talking. "I move for an immediate vote of no confidence in our current president," Bill announced. "Her actions have embarrassed our community and exposed the HOA to potential legal liability." The vote was unanimous except for Karen herself. The look on her face when the results were announced was priceless, a mixture of shock, rage, and disbelief. "You can't do this," she sputtered, standing up so fast her chair tipped over. "I am the president. I was protecting this neighborhood." Bill corrected gently. "The board will be reviewing all fines and violations issued in the last 6 months. Any found to be retaliatory will be reversed, and affected homeowners will receive written apologies." But the real consequences were just beginning. 2 weeks later, Karen received a letter from the state attorney general's office. Her abuse of HOA power had caught their attention, especially the attempted intimidation of neighbors. The investigation found she'd violated multiple state statutes regarding HOA governance. The fines totaled $35,000. When she got the notice, her scream could be heard 3 houses away. I know because I was in my backyard, preparing a practice run of my new signature dish, Governor's Revenge Ribs. 3 months later, I received an official letter with the state seal. Governor Mitchell had appointed me to the State Fire Safety Advisory Board. The position came with a small stipend and the opportunity to help shape fire safety policy across the state. The local newspaper ran a feature story with a photo of me shaking hands with the governor at the state capitol. The best part came when the Pine Valley HOA newsletter arrived at my door. Bill Harrison, our new HOA president, had dedicated the entire front page to Community Safety Corner, featuring my safety-certified BBQ tips. There I was, front and center on the cover, standing next to my smoker with the governor beside me, both of us wearing matching aprons from the fundraiser. Karen's house went up for sale 2 weeks later. The last time I saw her, she was directing movers while pointedly avoiding eye contact with anyone on the street. Word around the neighborhood was that the $35,000 fine, combined with the legal fees from fighting the state's investigation, had forced her to downsize significantly. As the moving truck pulled away, I couldn't help but fire up the grill one more time. The smoke drifted lazily across the street, carrying the scent of victory and perfectly seasoned brisket. Sometimes karma comes in the form of consequences and fines. Sometimes it comes medium rare with a side of coleslaw.